Same mask off.
Yeah, we are recording on the GoPro.
All right, guys.
Alex, can you give two big claps?
To
the mic?
No. Just like Alligator, Florida State. That's, dude, you're so close.
Alex, back up.
Alex.
Go to the other side of your mic.
Alex.
Now we have 25 claps to go off of. This is great.
It should line up well.
It should line up beautifully.
It's gonna be fantastic.
I don't do this type of stuff. You
No,
gotta
you're
edit
good.
that out. That's embarrassing.
No, that's our
Sports
first.
king?
That's the opening.
Yeah, that's our cold open. Is you trying to sync the audio?
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 9 of the Playback at PAT podcast. Today, we are diving into Free Solo, the feature documentary winner at this past year's Oscars, and what Lily's dad refers to as a rockumentary.
Yeah.
Maybe my favorite genre of film at this point.
I feel like diving wasn't the right word to use to introduce this
That should be
podcast.
climbing into.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a little insensitive based off of like I'm
Yeah.
sorry about
Come
that.
on, Joe.
But I had good intentions. But yeah, I mean, just to some background on it. This is a story focused on a man named Alex Honnold, who is a climber who has made a name for himself doing climbs by himself without ropes, also called free soloing, hence the title. But he's done some climbs that other people don't dare do without ropes, which was the basis of this documentary. And he was filmed by Jimmy Chin and
Legend.
Death a Legend, and Elizabeth, how do you say her last name?
I wish I knew.
I don't want to butcher it, so I'm going to call her Elizabeth Chai V. And yeah.
Lizzie.
And they co-directed it and did, I would say, an incredible job. And they assembled a team of climbers who were also filmmakers. And I think that's really what made the whole thing possible, because I think everybody was on the same page and really understood what it took to make a doc about this sort of thing. Because the ultimate goal of this, or Alex's ultimate goal in this whole story, is to climb El Capitan in Yosemite National Park in, we said Wyoming? Yosemite, exactly.
Damn it.
Probably. I feel like the majority of Yosemite is in Wyoming.
I think it's
There's a
Wyoming.
little bit that's Montana, but I don't know if El Cap is the part that's in Montana.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're safe to say Wyoming.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the synopsis. But yeah, let's go around. I want to hear everybody's take on this, because from the first shot I was locked in.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex?
I like that texture of the rock. I feel like I was touching it with my eyes.
For sure.
That was a really beautiful way to describe the
And
cinematography.
my follow-up question to this whole documentary was, did Travis Scott see this movie as someone who has a song called Yosemite?
Oh my God.
And I liked watching him and his girlfriend, wife, whatever it was. They had a nice friendship.
Yeah,
So,
what about you, Lil?
I think that this documentary is honestly scarier than most scary movies I've watched.
Yeah.
I literally was literally on my couch, like on the verge of vomiting the entire time, because like I was just so nervous, and it made me like nauseous. Like,
Did you
all
get
parts
like
of
the
it.
sweaty palms and like
Yes,
start to
'cause I-
oh yeah, I got that too.
I
Yeah.
have the biggest fear of heights, and I like falling in general. Like, that's like the whole thing where it's like I can't do it. And then you like meet this guy, and you like learn to like this guy through the documentary. And if he died at the end, obviously they wouldn't have like published it, or maybe they would have. I don't know.
That's another thing.
That's
we can
another
talk
question
about.
we have to
Yeah.
delve into.
The only
but-
thing, they would just end the ending with a title slide.
Yeah, but
Or
like
would
I
they?
don't know. Regardless, I was just like, you just like know this guy, and like, you know, Sani's on the other side, and she's like, it's like not about him, I feel like, so much as it's about like her, because he's okay with it. He's like come to like accept
was
the
a
fact
chill
that he
guy.
might die, but like I feel like she hadn't, and so that whole part of it made me like nauseous as well. And yeah, so I really liked it. I thought the cinematography was gorgeous, like the teamwork and the camaraderie of the rock climbing community and everything. I really liked it.
No, definitely. What about you, Des?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of work went into filming it and like how they even like set everything up to make that happen. I thought it was cool.
I feel a hot take coming. Am I wrong?
Of
Yeah, here
course,
it comes.
of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think it deserved the award it got. I think they put so much work into it, but the climbing part wasn't super interesting to me. So to watch him like all his practices, I was just like, okay, climb the rock, like
I understand you. I felt that
is
low key.
and that definitely comes from like the fact that I don't know anything about rock climbing. I would
Don't have
never
an
free
interest.
solo. His actual free solo was really interesting, but I found my like most interest peaking when they talked about like his mental state, his mentality, like the way he works, a little bit about his childhood. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, a lot
'cause
of the
it,
behind the scenes footage was way more interesting
Yeah,
than
'cause
some
it
of his
put-
like him preparing on his.
because it put in perspective of
Mhm.
why someone would climb something like that without a rope. I didn't have the same sense of dizziness as you guys, but that may be because in no part of my mind did I imagine myself out there. I was like, no, I would not even be.
That factors in too for sure. Do you think the like your kind of disconnect from the practice part of it has to do with maybe like the editing and not necessarily like the actual climbing aspect
It
of
totally could be. So I just felt like we got that little preview at the beginning and it was gorgeous. And then
Yeah.
I slowly just was like, all right, like I'm ready for him to do it. And I know that there's so much into it and it
Yeah.
takes him months to get in it and years to plan. So I have so much appreciation for that. And then the cameramen I have so much appreciation for. They're hanging off the side of a cliff half the time. They're coordinating what cameras they're like literally mounting to the side of a mountain. Yeah, and I thought it was good, but it definitely didn't hold my interest, I think, in the way it held others.
Fair enough. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, beginning to end, I liked it. It was one of the ones that like I'll keep watching and not have a problem with it. I think Honnold's a really interesting character.
Agreed.
Like interesting in the sense of like how like anyone who's super obsessive over anything is.
Yeah.
Like he finishes the climb, like no spoiler alert because he's still alive, and he like goes and practices in his van for like a couple hours.
Yeah.
Right.
He like goes on like a hang board, like one of those boards, and just like tests his grip more.
Well, it's the stuff you see about someone like, oh, James Harden just dropped 60 and then he goes and practices for an hour after the
Right.
game. Like that same type of like just locked in, like I'm not only going to be able to do this for like another 10 years or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
in this.
Honnold's like amazingly emotionally disconnected
Yeah.
from anything.
Yeah.
He's like,
But
very-
honest about it.
yeah, very vanilla,
Yeah.
honest, straightforward, and he just kind of doesn't care. But he doesn't like express that he doesn't care.
I mean, this is
yeah.
later in the film, but do you want to touch on the brain scan for that part of it?
Yeah, didn't they do the scan? And they
Yeah.
judged they go in and see like where normal people fear and emotion,
Mm-hmm.
I think
In
it was the
moments of-
amygdala.
Amygdala,
Yeah.
yes.
and like his just didn't fire.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
It did. It just took like so much more of that thing
That's
to set it
nuts.
off.
Right.
So when he finally gets a reaction, the same amount of stuff is like 10 times more present in a normal mind,
Right.
which is crazy.
And like people always say, like, oh, doing that takes like a certain type of person, and it clearly
Yeah.
does. Like this is legitimate evidence to say that
Yeah.
it does take a certain type of person. It does take a person whose like receptors don't fire as quickly as others, or it takes longer
Yeah.
too. And so I feel like that's weird, and that's kind
His-
of like plays into personality traits. You see
Definitely.
that, like,
His
kind of?
fight or flight response.
He like doesn't have
He
one.
literally
I
doesn't
would
have one.
love to see a scan of all of the free soloers that we saw in the movie.
And like kind of compare them and like
Yeah.
overlay them and see, yeah.
Yeah, we had like Tommy Cadwell, Mikey Schaefer, and Peter Croft was one of the like originals. So I'd be interested like to scan them and put them side by side with Alex and see if that's a trend.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
just
100%.
don't care.
Because I mean that's conditioning, right? You're kind of just practiced over the years of like you have to focus instead of
Yeah.
you have to focus on doing it instead of thinking about what could go wrong. So he's probably just done it so many times. It's just kind of like he's rewired himself.
Yeah. That's
I feel
crazy.
like that kind of
fascinating.
like reminds me of like I want to say like military kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like you like just like put up a wall and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna deal with this later. I
Yeah.
wonder if like you know what I mean? Like if any of this will come back to like haunt him. Not in like such like a prominent and like impactful way as it does with like PTSD and soldiers, but like if like something later in life, you know what I mean? Like comes back to him like or like even if he has a realization, like I'd like to see an interview like with him in like 15 years, 20 years, maybe has some kids, like if like his mindset at all changes, or even if like he gets another brain scan and see if his amygdala fires in the same way it did when he was like 20, whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. That'd be interesting. I'd bet that they'll probably do like another one down the line. You never know.
Yeah, I wonder what would be next after that, because they made
Yeah.
it seem like El Cap was like the holy grail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause,
I
like,
want to say that El Cap is one of the Apple program backyards. I believe it's Yosemite one.
I'm pretty sure.
Thank you for that snippet, Lily.
I like it was like the opening shot of the thing, and I was like, "Oh, I know, I've seen that before."
One part I really liked that was part of the climbing was when they broke down the hard parts of the climb.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and they
Oh, those-
overlay it with his journal entries.
Mhm.
And he's like, okay, so grab ear, left hand, push up, right foot. And it's like that detailed,
Yeah.
which is crazy for a climb that takes hours. I mean, for him, but so he did it in 3 hours and like 50 minutes.
Which I thought was like quick. I was like that. It only took like
It
4 hours.
like,
shatters.
I
Yeah.
like
Everybody
can't.
else.
So I
You
read.
can like get dinner after that. Just casually bring it up.
No, he would have been getting brunch because he started at
Yeah, he
started
at, like,
5
4 in the morning.
Right,
Yeah.
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 Mine
Quick,
also, like,
free
starting when
solo.
it's
Alex,
pitch
where
black
he-
out, that's nuts.
And then
He's
Like,
going
my
and
also-
snagging
He could eat some
bottomless
brown
afterwards.
bread
he,
after
he
the-
like puts
at the
his like
cheesecake.
hands in little like crevasses. Like, what
Yeah.
happens if he touches a bug? Like that's literally
Oh my God,
that's
that's
all I could
over.
think about was
With-
when he was climbing up
Yeah.
there. Like, what if he
with the
reaches in
straight line
and
crevices.
there's a spider in
or
there?
like, yeah.
And it like crawls on him. No, oh my god.
well,
And they showed like a shot of him getting attacked by a bird, which is what I thought about a lot too. Was there's like a bird like coming up near him and he was like shoo, like took his hand off the mountain. And I was like I like don't care about that right now. Like get over it. Like keep going because the bird was like coming at him and I just like literally like
Yeah.
half the time I was like, what if there's a spider?
There were some funny details during climbs that I was not expecting. One of which
boy.
being the bunny suit wearing person.
oh
who
yeah, that was
in the
camped.
tent,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy was
on the
awesome.
day of the final climb.
Yeah.
And he just walks by him, probably says what up, and
Yeah.
then keeps doing his
Keeps
thing.
doing his like record breaking climb.
Yeah.
But that was hilarious. But
Oh, it was a unicorn.
right,
Yeah.
unicorn.
They
right,
thought it
right,
was a
right.
bunny. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I forgot about that.
But that was one of my favorite moments,
Yeah.
just because it was hysterical, but also because it was like outside of the documentary, and so it was kind of like him running into somebody who's probably they had the tent, like they probably been up there since the day before, like they had ropes, like all this, and he's just like, oh hey, like I'm doing this thing, I'll catch you later.
Yeah, I'm just walking around. Let me
Yeah.
scoop by you here.
Exactly. But I mean, like that said, like circling back to what we were talking about earlier with kind of like how they were shooting it and everything, it was interesting to see over the course of the film and over the course of climbs how they changed their approach based off of his feedback, especially when they went out to do that climb. When he told them he was going to climb, they went with him to the climb.
Yeah.
He started in the dark and was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
As opposed to the final climb where they were posted up there already
Yeah.
and he just showed up.
Yeah.
And then the filmmakers were like, hey, he's here.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, it was interesting to see how that impacted whether or not he did the climb,
Yeah.
and also how it changed the framing and like how they shot it.
Yeah.
Because that gave them the opportunity to like limited what they could do at the top looking down.
Yeah.
But I think that's why that those final drone shots where they like started on him in the mountain, like on top, and then they just went back
my
and
God.
back, and it was that like wide to like extreme wide, and you just see what he just did.
Yeah.
That was my favorite shot maybe of the whole thing. It was incredible.
That's super impactful. When you can see all the trees and everything in the background, it's like he goes to a dot. Yeah, that was
you
sweet.
can't even see him anymore.
Mhm.
And it's like he just did that.
Right.
Incredible.
For something that dangerous, didn't he make a comment about like how much he makes? Like a kid asked him when he does like a
Oh,
school
yeah.
speaking thing. He's like, I make as much as like a dentist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Does
like a
what-
semi-successful dentist.
What is that like?
Well, he said he has a nonprofit, right? And he was
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
books, I think,
He
right?
has a book, yeah.
Yep.
And he's been in a couple films, and he does like urban climbs for his charity. So
Oh,
like
like
just
on
scale
buildings?
buildings and stuff,
That's cool.
That's pretty
which is
cool.
nuts. Because like, oh, I'm just gonna climb some bricks.
Yeah, that's scary.
Do you
Well-
know where he's done that before?
It was on his Instagram feed. It was just him climbing up the
How
side
many
of a building.
Okay,
followers
so I
does he have
wasn't
on
the only one to
IG?
stalk him after this happened.
No,
What's
that's
his
totally
IG
fine.
like? Is it celery juice?
No, it's very. It's
I
good.
know what you mean.
He was a bit. We should talk about that though. His lifestyle is very interesting, just based
I
off
know.
of because we see it change a lot during the film as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, with the introduction of his girlfriend.
Yeah,
Funny. She was
She was
cute.
really sweet.
Oh,
She was
I feel
They were
so-
both
I
really
felt so
sweet.
bad for
Yeah.
her. They're still together. Oh my god.
that's great.
Oh my god. Can we talk about how she let go of the rope when she was belaying him and he broke and he got 2 compression fractures and then he also like broke his foot like a while and how he climbed El Cap on like a recovering sprained ankle.
Hmm
Impressive.
I mean, that's kind of the first conflict of the film, right? Is him getting dropped and then kind of questioning
He's-
whether having a relationship is detrimental to
He
his
said
climbing.
he was gonna break up with her because of it, and that she like waited for him to calm down, and then they talked about it.
She talked him out of it. He
Yeah.
said, right?
She was like, "Are you gonna like regret this in a month? Like once you're healed, that this wasn't as big of a deal as you think it is." But it really says his mindset about life and climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's all into climbing. I mean, and
Life's a climb.
they recorded that conversation
Thanks,
when
Miley.
she asked him about soloing. She was like, "If I asked you not to, would you stop?" And he was like, "No."
Yeah. I feel like
So I mean, that's kind of what do you
That's a
guys feel
lot.
about that though? Is that like
It's
would you
not-
take that personal or would you kind of let them
It's
do
not
their own thing?
uncommon.
I
Like,
agree.
Have you ever seen the
agree.
documentary Bigger, Stronger, Faster? Long story short,
No.
it's a one about steroids, and the wife asked the husband. The husband later on ends up dying, but she asked him. She goes, "Will you ever stop taking
Whoa.
steroids?" And he's like, "No, I want to be the best. I'll stop for a little bit." And then she's like, "But will you really stop?" He's like, "No."
Then why? Why
And
would
so
you
she's
do
now
like,
I
no.
don't have to
So,
watch this
like-
documentary. You just spoiled it. for
No,
me.
that's a very small part. But it's like when people are ultra obsessed with like being the absolute best at something, they will.
Not human.
Yeah, it is. It is almost unhuman. Like they're devoid of all like normal emotional response, and they're just going to filter all of their mental capacity towards that one thing. It's bizarre, but also probably I don't know. I mean, they get successful sometimes. Look at him.
Mhm.
Strange.
Well, I guess that really just for her, it's like, is she comfortable being second in his life forever? Because he basically said he would always choose the climb over her. So if she's comfortable with that, then, and she's comfortable with like the way they're moving, we saw some forward progress. We saw them buy a house and the world's smallest fridge for that little house. I was like, it doesn't fit in the block.
It had the Energy Star on it. He saw that. He was like, "Let's go."
Mhm. Versus his van life, but he still kept the van life a little,
Yeah,
and she was into it.
I feel
that
like
seems like his spot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like his man cave garage, but it just is mobile and.
You can do finger pull ups
whole
in there.
house.
And he can just saute some veggies.
Can I make a comment about the
That's in
finger pull-ups? So we see him.
Incredible.
We see him from a wide. So I thought he had a bar,
No sir.
and then they cut to the reverse shot, and it's just like the
It's like-
tips of his little finger, just like.
His hands are disgusting.
How?
They're huge. too.
He has-
his toenails were too.
Yeah,
He's
they
got
and
like
his like fingernails are,
biceps on his fingers.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
he has
he
baseball
does.
mitts for hands.
He does. Which I think he
Very
reminded
helpful.
me, that stuff reminded me a bit of like when you see like Michael Phelps next to like somebody like who's more average.
Hmm.
Like you can tell like he's got flippers for feet and his hands look like this guy's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're built for climbing or
Yeah.
swimming,
They're-
whatever.
yeah,
it's
built
just kind of it is what it is.
yeah. It's
Imagine just having like a cramp in your hands from doing all that physical activity,
Do you think he
You
ever gets
can't.
cramps in his wrist when he writes?
or like it just hurts. Like my
Probably
hands
not.
hurt
He's
just
ready.
writing too fast.
exactly. Like,
Like-
do you think that happens
Like I'm
to him?
cringing thinking about doing.
He's
the
probably
stuff
so
he
well
does.
conditioned in his like fingers and hands that doesn't bother him yet.
Do you
That's
think he'd
probably
be
why
good at
he's
the
doing
piano?
those.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably break
Maybe.
the keys.
Dude.
Those things are murder
But like
weapons.
he has like
Alex
control over his like fingers. You know what I mean? To do that.
I have like sweaty hands just like thinking about his hands.
Me too. It's just that's scary.
I like the kind of going back to what you were saying, Lily, though, about I mean, because we're talking about relationships right now. And I mean, that seemed like really the crux of the whole story
Yeah.
was like the relationship of like you versus like climbing dash whatever your goal is and how that impacts everybody around you.
Mhm.
And so like what I thought was interesting was seeing like the like his friends who were all about climbing and helping him get ready, but they couldn't quite understand why he was still going to do this. And these are people who climb a lot. It
Yeah.
wasn't just I don't want to keep calling her his girlfriend. What was her name?
Sonny.
Sonny.
Sani.
Sonny.
Yeah.
I thought I was hearing it wrong
Yeah.
during the
I was like,
movie.
is it Sandy? But
a cool name.
weird. But it's Sonny.
But yeah, so I mean, it seemed because at first Sani was the only one who was kind of like, "Hey, like this is nuts."
Yeah.
And then by the end, it was kind of everybody.
Yeah, there was that shot of Mikey Schaefer,
Yeah.
who's the climber, and at the end, he's the cameraman on the ground. He has that crazy lens,
Right.
and
lens
The
he
is
gets
50 to 1,000.
yeah, and Alex gets to like the boulder problem part, and he literally just turns away. He's a climber, like a
Yeah.
professional
And
climber,
he had to like walk
and
away.
he was literally
I
couldn't even
think-
look at the
I think
That's
camera.
the part
like
where
one
he
of
has to
my-
like jump
the
over or
karate
like
kick.
stretch
Oh
a
my
That
kick.
was one of my
God.
favorite parts of the movie is when they had the filmmakers, like the actual cameramen, like looking at what he's doing and
Yeah.
seriously like taking it in. What
And then
he's
I
doing.
liked seeing
you never
them.
see that in documentaries. But
Yeah.
the ones I watch, I think that's like a cool open perspective.
I feel like that attests to like what need to happen to make this film happen. I
Yes.
feel like
Yeah,
because these guys were not only like just cameramen, they were like climbers. They became friends. They like this was over like a long period of time,
yeah,
and they have this real camaraderie with filming each other and climbing together and everything. And like I couldn't imagine watching one of my friends like that I've been spending so
yeah.
much time with scale that rock, and like I couldn't imagine not looking away. Like I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a great risk for like the filmmakers and everything. And Jimmy Chin said it as well. He said that like this is a risk. Like we might have to like film him like falling. We might have to deal with this, and we have a plan in place for when that
Yeah.
happens. You don't think about that with a lot of documentaries, but like with this one, you had to think about like this big what if. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
small one. It was like a life-threatening what if, and I feel like that takes a lot of
Yeah.
guts.
That conversation was sobering when they were like, "What do we do if he falls?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the guy was like, "We just got to call 911 and that's all you
my
can do."
God.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God. Like, cause we've all been in pre-production meetings.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a talk like that in one of those?
If someone croaks, no.
No.
No,
So,
or
I
if
mean,
something bad happens, it's
I've had bad happens,
Yeah.
but not like life and death bad. Like, all
Yeah.
right, if he breaks his arm while we do this, like
right,
something
right.
like that, but
Yeah.
not to the extent where like Jimmy was literally like, I am afraid to see him fall through the frame, and they cut together a time where he falls with the rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah. That was interesting to see as well, is that some of these climbers that, they go from Time magazine cover of his
Mm-hmm.
friend who's kind of helping him get ready, and then
There was Tommy Caldwell, I
yeah,
think.
Tony,
Yeah.
and
Tommy.
Tommy,
Tommy.
and so like they show him trying to do the karate kick at Boulder Problem,
Mhm.
and he falls once,
Yeah.
because they're roped up, so they're trying stuff a little more
Yeah.
risky. But I mean, these guys are like the best climbers in
Yeah.
the world,
Yeah.
and they're up there messing around, not getting it right every time. And seeing that when they were roped up, and then seeing
Yeah.
Arnold get out
Yep.
there and do it was just like, wow.
Yeah. The Tommy Caldwell documentary, The Dawn Wall, when he does the climb with ropes, takes him like 7 tries to do like that karate kick part.
Wait, the Dawn Wall with the kidnapping? That's Tommy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's,
The
Yeah.
what?
that's crazy. So is it the Dawn of the Wall?
The Dawn
Or
Wall or
The
the
Dawn
Wall?
Wall
Yeah.
is another film about climbing El Capitan or El
Oh.
Capitan with Tommy. Gus
That
had
guy.
told me about it, and it involves kidnapping.
Yeah. Well, not to totally hijack it, but
Go
yeah.
for it.
Anyways, Tommy does the kick thing, and it takes him like 7 tries, but they do like a Spider-Man jump to do it.
Mhm.
But he's all roped up, and he's got a buddy up there with him, and his other buddy takes him like 10 times. But the fact that Honnold, through all the failures, was able to do it without
It's one.
ropes.
Yeah, it's one shot.
added so much layers to it, and you can see like Tommy's like, dude, this is wild. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you're trying to do this in a day, it took him like a week and a half.
Yeah, they show him They show Honnold try to like make that jump a few times, and you
Yeah.
watch him go over it, and like they cut like it builds up to being like you don't know, like he gets that you're legit like I don't know,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that was definitely scary for me.
Yeah.
I just like the way they built this up was like you really feel the high stakes that this was. Like you
Yeah.
are like I don't know, like for me personally, I was enthralled. I was like I need to know, and I stopped like about 30 minutes before I finished because I was like I can't watch this when I'm tired. I have to watch this when I can like really take this all
Yeah.
in. But yeah, that was
They manage the pacing and the tension in the documentary like perfectly.
yeah.
Like ebbing in moments of like ease. Like
Yeah.
at once he starts the climb and you're like, oh, it's building up, and then he sees
Yeah.
the guy in the unicorn
I think
suit.
the
It's
music
like,
that
okay.
they had to build up was a really good selection. I don't think it was any artless material. But that was one of my
Shout
favorite
out
parts
Artlist
too.
though.
We love you.
Artlist is
Sponsor
great.
this podcast.
Wouldn't
No,
hate
I
it.
really liked the music. It was fun to listen to and to distract from some scenes.
Yeah. Definitely.
Some tension.
I'd be interested to know what you guys thought about the situation with his mom and his dad and growing up. And the mom, when we first meet her, talks about how the dad was kind of really rude and terrible to him. And
Then he says he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so she
that
has
was
a one
interesting.
perspective, and then we cut to Alex, and he's like, "No, my dad was like a big teddy bear," and he was like, "But my mom was a little like cold,"
That's crazy.
and she thinks
Interesting.
it's the other way.
Unresolved family problems that you found out in the documentary.
Yeah, but I thought that was interesting, and it could really play a part into who he is.
Free
and-
Solo,
His
number
psyche
2,
and
the
everything.
sequel.
Yeah, his relationship, and of course his climbing.
Yeah. It's just like I feel like what happened with him was like a perfect storm of like his dad used to take him to Yosemite, so he has his interests, and then they used to climb to like drink like milk and cookies, like you said, and like his relationship with his parents weren't that great, and like maybe that like definitely like plays into how he thinks and how his like sense of risk is, like to a certain extent. I feel like that helps. That not helps, but that plays into that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely. Anyone else have thoughts on that one?
I mean, it was interesting to hear what she said at the beginning. Or what was it? That was probably like near the beginning ish when we meet
Yeah.
her.
Probably in the first third.
She has a quote where she says, I would never tell him not to free solo.
Yeah.
Because like that would be me taking away the thing that he loves most,
Yeah.
and I couldn't live with myself if I did that and tried to guilt him
Yeah.
into doing that,
He
or
would just
alienated
resent
him,
her.
or he'd just run away and not talk to
Yeah.
her. And so, which is what they kind of hinted at right after his dad died, right? He
Mhm.
kind of took off. So that was interesting to hear and then see. see kind of other people come around on that same conclusion as well near the
Yeah.
end in their own ways.
Yeah, like Tommy at the very end when he's talking about it, he gets like misty eyed,
Yeah.
and he's like, I would never do it. He was like, I love this and I love climbing, but I would never do that, and I would hate to lose a friend just because of it. But he doesn't tell him no. He's like, the best I can do, because I know he'll do it with or without me, is to just prepare him. That's the biggest contribution I can make, is preparing him, which I thought was kind of interesting.
It's
and
such
really,
a hard like subject to guide and convince your friends to not or do
Yeah.
or not do something because they're gonna do it. That's huge. It's like a
Mhm.
huge success for their
yeah,
rock climbing career. But like your life's at stake, and like you want to be a good friend and give
Yeah.
them like a heads
Yeah.
up. But it's like super hard to fully
and
help them out.
it must be hard to watch on because
Exactly.
you have it was like 3 hours 59 minutes, and after the first probably 9 minutes it's all life risking the entire rest of the time.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So for 3 hours and 50 minutes you're just like, please don't fall, please don't fall, please don't fall, like while trying to get your shots too.
Mhm.
It's
And
crazy.
like you have to come to terms with the idea that if you don't help him, you're putting him at more risk. But if you help him, you're also putting him at a risk too to like,
Yeah.
help him build up this confidence. And you want him to have it, but like, what if he gets too confident? And like that's such a hard thing to like think about. Like, and I don't know how. Like, I don't know if I could come to terms with something like that, or if I could work through something like that. Like, I'm sure if the time came and I like was put in that position, like you have to do it. It's kind of a force of hand almost. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really interesting.
Definitely. And I think that wouldn't have been the same if not for that turning point where he goes for it the first time with the headlamp on and gets up to a certain point and says, nope, I'm not doing it. I cheated on this part. There's people here, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, it seems like he doubled down on preparing and doing practice runs and journaling.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, he had been talked to about not expressing his feelings accurately in the past.
Yeah.
And I wonder if him stopping himself on that first one was like partly to do with that, where he was like, I feel like something's wrong. I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to pull back.
Yeah. And they all said it was a good thing he did. Like,
Definitely.
don't do it unless you feel you can. It's too risky.
I feel like that almost like, because everybody else was kind of a little more hands off up to that point where
Yeah.
they were like, do your thing, this, that. People really got involved after that.
Yeah.
And I mean, who's to say if he went for it on that one that he like was prepared and that he would have made it.
Yeah.
But that seemed like at the time like a major setback that he wasn't even going to try it again.
Yeah.
Like where was everybody at when he stopped that first time?
I said thank God, because like
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
like good for him to know himself and
Yeah.
to know the risk of continuing at his point. Like you have to be so self-aware to be like, oh, but like what, like to be like, I need to stop now, instead of, oh, what if I push on a little longer? Like good on him to know that that's what he needed.
He proved he was a human out of
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Like the whole time he's robotic and like binary, and then he eventually is just like, oh, wait a second, this is not a good call.
Yeah.
And he's able to like slow himself down, which was weird because he had none of those moments until then.
Well, I mean, there was that conversation with what's her name again?
Sani.
Sani.
Shout
keep
out
wanting to
Sani.
say Sandy. Sorry.
Sad for forgetting your
Sani.
name. Sorry.
Where she talks about talking with him about his feelings and how even though he doesn't feel comfortable to just say the words because she needs to hear it, and like that's when they talk a little bit about like love languages and stuff, and she's like, this is what I need from you.
Oh, right.
So I think it was a little helpful in that way, because without that, would he have said no? Because he's like, oh, I feel like I have to do it. But now he's like slowly learning through the course of the film in the background how to be able to express himself and say things even when he wants to not. He just wants to just like think about it and deal with it himself, versus her really pushing to be like, for us to make this relationship work, I need you to say things to me that you think are things we already know. I need you to say them out loud.
That's
So-
yeah,
Good
that
call.
was really good. Like I feel like that was a good way to watch him learn. Like you see him become definitely more human and more almost like pliable, like in a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's so rigid at the start of it, and you see him like go through this transformation, and it still shows that you can still do what you love and still like be good at what you do,
Yeah.
even if you're dating someone else. Because that was the whole thing for him. Is like people like rock climbers are saying like you don't want to get a girlfriend because you don't want to have that stress. You
Yeah.
don't want to have to worry about someone else besides you.
Yeah. Treating it
But-
like an anchor.
Yeah, you watch him learn that he can do this without making that sacrifice and
Mhm.
making that sacrifice like and cutting her off almost. So
Yeah.
he's able to like balance that, and I thought that was cool to watch him do that.
And healthy for him.
And yeah, it was
Yeah.
good to see him become like almost more human in a way and like less
Yeah.
robotic.
Yeah.
See him feel.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely closed off at the start, but I mean, I think that's also because like it has partially it has to do with like how he's like dealt with things in general, like
Yeah.
going up to that, because it's like instead of him focusing on like what can go wrong
Yeah.
or like the negatives of stuff, he's always
Uh-huh.
like, what can I do to get through this?
Yeah.
And has to be very like cut and dry about it.
Yeah.
Because if he starts to think about stuff too deep at the wrong time,
Yeah.
that can be life or death. So I think it was kind of him teaching, we kind of watched him teach himself, other people teaching him, whatever the
Yeah.
combo is of like being able to tap in at the right time.
Yeah.
Because like we see him start the climb, go by himself, he gets through it super fast,
Yeah.
clearly locked in. But then as soon as he gets to the top, like he's hugging people, he's telling
Yeah.
them he loves them.
Yeah.
He calls Sani and
He's,
he
like, about to
says,
cry.
yeah, and he says like I feel like I'm about to cry, and he tells her that he loves her
Yeah.
after earlier in the film saying it's really difficult
hard
for
for
me to
him.
say that to anybody.
Yeah.
even
And we
my
don't see
mom.
him say it
Yeah.
until that point.
Yeah.
Also, on that, when she shows up the night before he's gonna do the climb, they hug, whatever. She's about to leave the trailer.
Yeah.
It looks like he's sitting up in bed to say something as she's leaving. And then like her shutting the door and saying goodbye kind of drowns out whatever he was saying.
Yeah.
It looked like he was about to be like, I love you, like goodbye.
To drop that.
Holy
Yeah,
love you, Carter.
But like you can't hear it. I rewound it a
Yeah.
couple times and I was like, what was he going to say?
Yeah.
Because then he just laid back down. And he was like, oh, I'm going to bed.
He was like, I want to say goodbye, but then, I mean,
But it shouldn't
is
be a
it
goodbye.
Mhm.
forever?
Right.
You know, like
Right.
he
Oh.
almost, you watch him be like, don't do it
That's
Yeah.
heavy.
when he wants to do
Yeah.
it, or it looked like he wanted to do it.
Yeah. I mean, have you guys ever had someone give you an ultimatum like that? I mean, about anything? Where it's like, if you do such and such, then like...
I mean,
no.
Well, I guess Lily and Alex is probably not as relevant for you
Yeah,
guys.
we're like
Me wondering what
17.
ultimatum means.
Mrs.
Hey, fair
Haig
enough.
did you
Fair
dirty.
enough.
that's awesome.
Education
I'm gonna
moment.
Google that.
I'll tell him what an ultimatum is.
It's
It's-
basically a if then statement.
Yes.
So it's like, if you climb,
Then this
then
will happen.
we will not be
Yeah.
together.
yeah.
Basically,
so-
if you pick one thing, you 100% lose the other thing
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
in a
I don't think
two-person
I've
situation.
ever
I don't think
Not
I've
even with
ever-
your parents. Your parents never were like,
Uh,
if you do this,
My
you
mom said if
don't-
I don't clean my room, I couldn't go trick or treating. So then I climbed
That's
out
an
my bedroom
ultimatum.
window and
Exactly.
then like
That's
All
a
right,
sat
heavy,
so you
outside.
picked
heavy
an
ultimatum.
alternative.
she
Wait, what was that last part,
climbed
Lil?
out the
I climbed
window.
up my bedroom window and sat on the side of my house, feeling sad.
Oh, but you
'Cause
didn't
she
go
was-
Wow,
trick or
that's
treat.
No,
like
no, because I
some,
could.
like,
I left after. I was like,
American
Mom, I got
sitcom
outside. She-
situation.
yeah, she was like, you can't
Lily's
like
whole family,
you
right?
can't that.
The 4-girl scenario.
Yeah, it was me and Lucy's room. I climbed out my bedroom window. She was like, you can't go outside and play with your friends, and you can't go trick or treating unless you clean your room. And then I said, okay. And then I climbed out my bedroom window and ate all the like pre candy because like we get like candy before candy. Like we get to choose some out of like our like bucket from home
Oh, nice.
that we want. So
That's a
I
nice
ate that
treat.
outside and went to my
Aw.
friend's house. And then I came back.
How'd you get outside? Jumped out the window, Dad.
Correct.
See, Lily knows about scaling buildings now. She
Yeah,
knows what's
see,
up.
I
Wow.
know
you have the
what's
most
up.
climbing
Her
experience
free
ever.
solo career.
I couldn't do the monkey bars in my backyard, so I don't know what that says. But yeah, I definitely could climb out my bedroom window and climb back through on my Adirondack chairs.
Are you on the
Munch-
first floor?
Yes.
Adirondack
Oh, okay.
chairs.
But
They were
Adirondacks.
like they're like crappy, like
Her
the
second
green
floor
ones
is
that
not
you
that
scratch
far
and
away
it
from
like
the
makes a weird
ground.
sound. Yeah, my second floor is like not that far.
Like You could
Do you know
ladder
what I'm
that.
talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking
Like
about.
it like makes that sound and you're like
Yeah.
I do
and it
not.
like leaves that ugh. I like that was like one of my things as a kid, like I couldn't do it because if I made it I like it
I built an Adirondack chair, never squeaked
Wow.
once. Just throwing it out there.
Why is every word that begins with A in more than 8 letters not in my vocabulary?
ultimatum starts with a U.
Yeah.
In my brain. I
We'll we'll let that one
Yeah.
slide, but
An ultimatum.
No, I can't think of any good ones.
Come on.
I just can't think
Nothing?
of any, like, nothing life changing.
Oh,
I mean, I think in
I feel like Des is
relationships-
probably giving you one where she's
Oh
like,
yeah,
if you don't
probably
edit,
at work.
you'll be fired.
No, because
I
I
think you
usually
did. I know.
edit.
I think
Yeah,
you
he
told
doesn't.
Alex that once because he says, if you don't tell me that, then I won't do it. And you were like, all right, Alex, if you don't do it, I will fire you.
Yeah,
Did
that's
I?
my
That sounds about
ultimatum
right.
chair.
Savage.
mine has usually involved communication.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey,
Whoa.
if you are not a consistent communicator,
Yeah.
then this is not going to work. I was
I've
like, yeah, that
so-
makes sense.
I've thrown
Yeah.
like joking ultimatums to my like brother because it's funny.
Yeah.
Just action.
Yes,
Shut
you
up.
know what they are.
Yeah,
It's
everyone
sandbagging
jokes
efforts.
around
Say
is like,
no.
you better do
Alright.
this or, but yeah, I think what they went through is something that people commonly go through in relationships, especially like
Definitely.
when you're younger. But no, I mean when you're older too, it depends on the mix of people.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you're like,
don't leave Joe out there.
well, no,
Throw
the
him
And
out
also,
there.
I think the
mean,
communication one is really good because
Yeah,
a lot of
it's common.
people get in their own head and you're like, oh, this is what our relationship is. And until I say it, there is no way to know that's true.
Yeah, assumptions versus like,
Reality, really.
yeah, however you want to phrase it. Yeah, but no, for sure.
No,
I mean,
absolutely.
it is hard to. Yeah, you could get in your own head about stuff, but until you actually have the conversation, like direct questions, you can't know.
Yeah, and to go back to what she said about love languages is like she was like, I need you to communicate because that's how I understand that you care about me. I need you to do this because that's how I understand. So that's really why she pushed it.
Yeah,
I don't remember what the list of like love languages are. I know it's like
It's
touch,
like gifts, touch,
action,
actions.
stuff like that.
someone made me take one of
Communication.
those tests one time,
Yeah.
but it was like too soon, and I like felt weird.
Yeah, I would say like you
like-
would wait till you feel something strong before you were like, all right, to continue, just so you know.
They were like,
These
"What's
are
your
what I
email?"
need.
I was like, "What?"
What?
No, not like the password, but they were like, "What's your
No.
email?" So I can like send you the link. I was like, "To what?"
I can give
She
them
was
that
like, nice to
information.
meet you. Can I have your email?
No, it was like a few weeks in, but like I was like, "Oh, this
weeks.
is like not that." Like,
Maybe I just
Yeah.
wanted to email you something special.
yeah, maybe they were
Yikes.
sending my info everywhere. You know what I mean? They were like, "All right, like."
This isn't couples therapy.
Mr. B
This is free solo.
She'd be good at both.
I would say like the story of it, like in the middle, there was a bit of a lull with like
Yeah.
I agree with Des a little bit where the practice of it, but I think it did drive home how much practice he put in.
Yeah. I guess I was like, maybe I'm too stuck in the like, if we're just doing something again, just make it a montage and move on. Like, which is so unfair for this movie because
Yeah.
the practice is what gets him there. And like, it's all about that energy and focus he has. So it is great to see. But like I said, because of I don't have an interest in that sport or whatever, it feels weird calling it a sport.
It is.
A
It's not
hobby.
just a hobby.
Uh,
Way more advanced than a hobby.
A lifestyle?
Well,
I mean,
for
it's
him,
a career for
Yeah.
him.
right, it is a
so-
career. Yeah.
whatever he's doing, like because I don't have like a huge interest in it, seeing it like repeat without detail, I was just like, I have no context. Like, is this helping because he's doing this? Is this helping because he's just practicing gripping? He kept being like, I need to be mentally strong and I need to feel fit. And
Yeah.
I was like,
I bet
is that
he'd
just
be
push-ups?
able
But
to-
no, you just like hang, right? It's hanging.
He'd be able to open up any of those snacks that you just can't open.
True.
Or any jar.
True.
Any jar.
Any
He
Don't
would
fight him.
demolish.
Yeah, that guy would be a problem in a fight. Like he would just
You
not
would-
care.
And
You don't
problem
look-
holding a baby, which we saw.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't put any pressure because I will kill it. Like, just
Yeah.
take it away. That was awesome. That was my favorite part.
Oh yeah, when the guy almost killed
I
the
feel
infant.
like
a
he like
lemon, he just like would
That's
crush
fantastic.
it. Like when he bites into an apple, you have to get a good grip. What if the apple
just like,
splits into him?
Now,
Also, I feel like he didn't look like he would be that strong, but like he like I don't. You know what I
I
mean?
feel like-
He seemed
I feel like he looked
nice
very
guy.
tall and
Yeah.
lanky.
Yeah.
that first stretching shot, you were like, this dude's yoked. Like you see the shoulders and stuff, you're like, dang.
And he's got that like Dorito shape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He does,
Like, what up?
Very boxy.
Where it's like
Trapezoid.
very wide shoulders
Broad
and very
shoulders and then,
skinny
like,
waist.
So
tight
Phineas
core.
from Phineas and Ferb.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah, Phineas would have been a great climber.
Guess,
no,
have you ever
Perry
tried
the
rock climbing?
platypus would probably be
No,
better.
I'm far too heavy to climb rocks. I can't.
Okay.
I can barely do like pull ups and stuff, so I'd probably just die.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to slim it down a little bit if you're
Yeah.
going to do that.
Those guys are light. Like those guys are
Joe,
like
have
150.
you ever
Are we
tried
going from
climbing
couples
rocks?
therapy to like?
A little bit.
Because the
How do
movie
you? I feel
goes
like you would.
from
I
couples
feel like
therapy.
you would be good at it.
I've tried it a little bit. I mean,
like
I
I
would,
once chalked my hands.
I've never done the chalk. It's
I
different.
did that in gymnastics.
I learned to belay like
Yeah.
in high school, where it was so when she let go of the rope by mistake.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I learned how to do
Big
that
mistake.
in high school, and so like you have to stand on the edge, facing your back towards the edge, and you just send yourself off of it, and you have to trust someone else to be holding you, and you have to not lean forward enough, or you smash your face off the rock. You have to lean back so that your feet can
You like
catch
bounce,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
have.
that's
once.
terrifying.
I've never fully really rock climbed. I've tried it, but like I'm not gonna say I did it because I did it
Yeah.
wrong.
I
But my
like
favorite
carnivals
part
and
is
stuff.
when
no,
you start- when you
At
fall,
Brooksby Farm Camp.
Brooksby Farm
when you
Camp.
when you're roped up and then you
I'll let
you-
finish
I'll let you know
and
about
you
it
just
in a
start like
second.
going down. That's my favorite part.
We had
like a-
Spindrift. That was about it.
Yeah.
So not the
It's-
climbing, the
Uh,
descent.
middle
An
school.
Inspiring
At O'Malley,
trapeze
we used to do the
artist.
climbing.
I like my
That's
practice.
Yeah.
That's why, because you want to do trapeze. So
Oh,
you're like,
why?
I like to climb, so I can
We need
let
to
go
make
and
that
swing.
That
happen.
literally is.
I told them we're doing a doc about it. I'll
Can
pay
we
for
please?
school.
The Lockumentary.
The-
I
Okay.
have no words.
Part 2,
But yeah,
locked
I
and loaded.
once rock climbed.
Part 3, unlocked.
oh my god.
Part 4.
There's
Shamlock. St. Patrick's Day. 2020.
Oh my god.
It's
Can we do,
endless.
like, yeah. Part 2, double glock.
I love it. So let's what
That's my dad's
Locked
nickname.
down.
Glock.
Glock.
That's awesome.
Gary Lock.
So I mean, I'm interested
No
now. We've been
government.
talking about kind of people's relationships with each other, but like, did anybody have a favorite character?
Sonny, like to go back to, I feel
No,
like I feel like she was the most human out of everybody in this movie. I just
Yeah.
have to say, I have to put it out there.
You related to her
yeah.
the most.
She went through so much stuff for this boy, for this skinny white boy.
She chose to
and
stay.
Yeah, many.
She
She
did.
did, which
Good for her,
says a
and
lot
good
about
for
her.
her, and how her trust in him, and not like relationship wise, but more like literally his life wise.
Yeah.
And so good
Yeah.
for her. You know,
She
Good
was
on her.
awesome.
I liked Alex. He was my favorite character. I really liked how he didn't really have a personality and how the film like went with it.
Yeah.
I feel like he
And
was like
how-
funny, but like not.
Yeah.
like accidentally.
I
Yeah.
feel like if you like could get real close to him, he'd make a few jokes.
yeah.
And I like how we didn't see that till the end of the movie.
yeah.
Like if you were his waitress, he'd make you laugh, or if you were his
I don't-
waiter.
I don't think he
That's
would.
what I think.
No, and
That's like the first thing that came to my head.
you're
No, I
not,
feel
you're
like-
only serving him once. I feel like he wouldn't.
More likely
Get
you'd make a
comfortable.
joke and he'd just like look at you and be like,
Yeah.
what are you
Like that.
saying?
Why are you
That's such
speaking?
a funny
Yeah.
personality to look at, or unless you're really talking to him and then he judges you.
What about you, Des?
They were all awesome. Yeah, the two main characters were great, and seeing his friend Tommy was cool. I really liked Peter Croft, who only came in at the end, the older climber, because basically Alex would be like, "I'm scared," and he'd be like, "Totally," and he'd be like, "I didn't do it," and he was like, "Good choice." Like I liked that he was just like he was really saying take your time, but the way he said it was like, "Don't do it, man. I know what it's like, and it's crazy. Why do we do it?"
Dude, and I don't mean to skip you, Gus, but just jumping off what she just said, he was my pick as well. Just because I think it really tapped you into the reason why this kind of movie hasn't happened before, because he said he turned down this same like movie idea back in the
too
day.
Distracting.
Exactly. And he said it made him feel like it wasn't for the right reasons, which is obviously a personal thing.
Yeah.
But their interactions were hilarious because they're in the middle of shooting something, and this guy is straight up saying having a camera around makes it not count. Like, it's not you doing it for the right reasons.
When he said that, I thought I saw the cameraman shudder just for a second.
No, but the camera...
Office.
Yeah, this is the zoom in.
Oh, God.
They did that once on Tommy, which I thought was funny. But I was just gonna say it's interesting because the climbers, the cameramen were also climbers.
Yeah.
So I think they were super honest about that side of things the whole time, and they showed multiple conversations of them talking about it. But
Yeah.
what was that guy's name? Gary?
Which one?
Or,
The
sorry,
cameraman?
The older climber.
The older guy.
That was Peter.
Peter, sorry.
Peter Croft.
Peter Croft.
Great
No
name.
relation to Lara Croft, also a climber.
And that guy, just subtly put in there that he did this one summit free solo 60 times.
Oh, yeah. He was like, yeah, I went for some practice, probably like 50 or 60 times.
And Honnold, the guy who is about to do LCAP,
Yeah.
was blown away by
Yeah.
that. So you can tell that seemed like a mentor type of relationship right there.
Yeah, and I think it was him that said
like
that.
dad figure type of thing.
Yeah, I believe it was him, but it could have been one of the other ones. If you know nothing about climbing, it's not very impressive.
Yeah.
But if you know even one iota about climbing, it is absolutely insane. So I was like,
Right.
that's probably why I don't not one iota.
That was a good point too, because I
Yeah.
think Alex was good at convincing people that he's feeling casual about it. So they just are
Yes.
like, all right, cool.
All right, yeah.
But yeah, what about you guys? What's your character that sticks out?
I mean, I had listened to the podcast before with Jimmy Chin and
Okay.
like his take on it and their like background preparation.
Okay.
So when he
podcast
came
day.
through, I was like, oh, I like, and you could see him like active in the documentary trying to figure out like, we're going to put a camera here. Does the drone distract you?
Yeah.
How close can we get?
Yeah.
Will it distract you if I'm right next to you? We're going to have to mount one there. Like them working in tandem
Yeah.
was interesting because of what you just said. Like they acknowledge like you're not doing it for the right reason if it's for the camera, if it's for
Yeah.
yourself. And we just happen to be there. That's what makes it special.
Definitely. I
And-
mean, I think that factor, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier about like how the shooting changed based off of like how he was approaching the climb.
Yeah.
But how many mounted cameras did you guys spot during the climb? Because there were 2 right next to Boulder Problem, but I didn't see a ton of other mounted ones. It looks like the rest were kind of like handheld
I think that
or tripod.
on the final attempt, he said that the first part was a lot of mounted.
Okay.
And then after the first part, that they were able to come down from the top because he was like, I think what happened in the first one is there were too many people close to me and I was just starting and I like messed up. So I believe that they did mounted for a good portion at the beginning and then moved to the handheld and the drone, which was amazing.
And how cocky was it after he gets past the boulder problem? He just looks at the camera
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, I did it. He's like, this is cake
He deserves
now.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
but-
like, I kicked that.
Yeah.
Like, I karate kicked that
Yeah.
rock. We good.
And shout out to Jimmy Chin and all the other guys for climbing with like a 30-pound camera pack on them.
Yeah.
That was another thing that I was like that made me nauseous because like if that drops, like good night, like good luck.
Oh my god.
'Cause
Any-
that to me looked like a C300 with
Yeah.
like a zoom on it.
Oh, yeah,
right?
me too.
Okay, so that's like a 15, 20 pound camera.
Plus
Yeah.
any audio,
Right,
like
right.
a microphone set up on top, and they're probably sending wireless video or maybe sending wireless video. Probably
yeah,
not.
maybe.
Yeah.
If
I
they wanted
didn't-
like extra recording in case they do drop it.
I didn't see a transmitter, but they may
But,
have hid one. I
Like,
don't know.
Absolutely.
yeah, they had, and he still has his camera bag with extra lenses,
Yeah.
extra accessories, cards, all that stuff. Like,
Imagine if you drop like a lens cap.
Dude, for
I-
real.
you-
By the
cut
time
that
it hits
loss,
the
man.
ground, though,
It's gonna be like
it could kill
disintegrated.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I always like to mention when anyone talks about like extreme survival docs
Mm.
or anything like that, and it's showcased in this one, but it's not showcased in like television shows, is like for everything the subject is doing, the cameraman is doing with a huge camera strap to him.
Yeah.
So when you see Bear Grylls talking
I
about
was just about to say that. That's the
This is-
first thing my dad said when we saw,
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
you saw the guy hanging from the top of the rock.
Yep.
My dad's like, that's the craziest episode I've ever seen of Bear Grylls.
yeah,
Is that the,
Bear
you see those
Grylls.
guys, they're doing the thing is that bear's doing, but it's harder because they're running through the mountains with the camera on their back.
Exactly.
Wait, did your dad call it Bear Gorillas? Oh my god.
That's amazing.
We need to bring him in.
Your
He's
dad
our
is
man.
iconic.
He's got to
my
have a
hero.
call-in episode. Like,
Oh my
dang.
God.
Yeah, like
I don't think we can. He literally should not be allowed in public. I just have to put that out
How
there.
dare.
It's just like it's like no, I don't think so.
No, he's my favorite.
I might have to 86 that veto, canceled.
86 the Pops. Fair enough.
Richard.
You were in the middle of something, Des. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Oh, yeah. So the one episode of Bear Grylls that always comes to mind for me is there's this one where he's like in the tundra and he kept talking about how the ice breaks apart and forms crevices, but he calls them crevasses.
I was just about to say that.
And he climbs down and he's like, I can't go any further. It's just too dangerous. And then there's a shot from below and it's moving, which means there's a man there.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, respect for these cameramen, respect for Jimmy and the crew
Huge respect.
that could do this because it is a lot of work. And I guess that goes back to the earlier statement. If you know nothing about camera work, you're like, oh, whatever. But then if you know anything about it, you know the difficulty that comes
Imagine
with
dropping your
this.
lens cap in that crevasse.
It's gone.
Alex would be like, Gus.
Call B&H.
Sends me a text and he's like, "Hey, I have a picture to send you," and just shows the bottom of the crevice. Like, I dropped a lens cap down there.
Can you get
Should
that
I
for
go
me?
get it? Will this come out of my paycheck?
Why do I feel like you would say yes? You'd be
You
like, go
would.
try. And you would text me, and I'd be like, absolutely not. And then you'd be like, Desiree said no.
That's
Yeah, Alex.
literally every shoot that
I
I've ever
don't
been
want to
on.
do any mistakes. That's why I double check.
There are no
Appreciated.
mistakes, just
Appreciated.
filmmaking.
I wish this wasn't true, but I feel like if it was like just Gus and I out on a shoot and like we dropped one down there and we had paracord, it would be like I would be dropping in there and Gus
yeah.
would be lowering me.
Yep.
Yep.
Like
I can see it.
I would be into
Bro,
it,
just get
and
another
we would
lens
need
cap on Amazon.
we would need Des to be there and be like, "Hey guys,
You
dumb
need
idea."
a voice of reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's like you two are like, yeah, and Des is like, no.
I'm
Just-
like, listen,
I watched Free Solo. I know a karate.
I
kick.
will,
know how to do this.
I will pay for the lens cap. Can't replace
That's
you.
literally Des.
Just-
It's like, I
this
will
one's-
take
I
care of
always
it.
say that
but-
to the kids when they go out with, like, for the first time when I send people out with cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we're not going to be there. If someone wants the camera, give them the camera because I can buy a new one and I cannot buy a new like student in you. Like, no, it ain't worth it.
This part of the climb is called Glacier Problem, and we're just gonna.
It's about the lens caps.
Also, hinging off the camera thing that you talked
Yeah.
about, shout out Les Stroud and like the people who go out there by themselves
You're
and shoot it.
They're bold.
Literally.
Pretty bold.
amazing.
They're
Pretty bold.
Ah, Lily. Nice. Nice.
I'll be here all week. Just kidding. It's Friday.
But I mean, I got a scene or collection of scenes that I want to talk about that
Yeah.
is just a funny moment because
Yeah.
there was more humor in this than I expected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Before we go.
Go ahead, Lily. What's
Before
up?
we go into this, I want to say that this documentary kind of has the same energy of about the first 30 minutes of the Blair Witch Project. I just want to throw that out
personally
there.
got Bird Box vibes when they're on the rapids.
Wait,
That's what it
did I watch
reminded
a
me of.
different movie? We all watched Free Solo, right?
Yes.
I don't know why. Like the documentary, they're kind of laughing about it. Like there's like danger,
They
but like
just
they
had
don't really
some-
care about it. Like that's the
They had some
energy that.
HG
it's
shots
like-
of the river in Bird Box, and then they had some HG shots of this Yosemite.
HD
Mountain.
nature. Clearly the
This-
same.
They had some deep music too.
I just
so
like
that's where it's
I just like was
collided.
thinking about that. It's
We're
like
getting
it
to
just like has the
same
same
thing.
energy. Watch the first like
Sandra
30
Bullock
minutes.
is going to play Alex in the biopic.
Do you
Oh my
mean?
God.
No, Robbie Malik.
No, actually,
Love it.
Scarlett Johansson. And her name's that girl from Bird Box.
How dare you?
It's
Okay.
actually going to be Sarah Paulson, and she's not going to make the climb.
Scarlett
She's
Johansson.
going to scream the whole time.
Was
Sorry.
that so? Am I in?
Yeah.
Are you?
I think Lily's done.
I was just gonna talk about. I loved watching Alex cook and eat. This is one of
Weird.
my favorite things to see
That makes
someone do
one
in
of
general.
us.
But
Those potatoes weren't looking too right.
him, okay.
Yeah.
We only saw him cook them at the beginning.
The dude was like
True.
shoveling things into his
He
mouth
was.
with like a whole spatula.
I appreciated
and I'm like,
that
oh my
part.
God, you're
You're-
eating a carton of eggs right now.
Your man's does not use forks, plates, anything aside from the pan and whatever he used to stir or like flip things. So he's got spatula as his utensil and pan as everything else. And that's him when he gets a house as well. So he's sitting there talking to,
Sani.
oh my God, talking to
Start calling
Sani.
her sauna.
Sauna.
Talking to Sani, and she's like doing her thing, and he's sitting there in a house, in a new house, with nothing in the cabinets, eating out of a pot. I was like, this guy
He's
is
a king.
legit. Like, he does
He's
not mess
woke.
around. But that's van life right there, and it was cool that he like held on to
Life on
that.
the
Yeah.
road.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think he upgraded in certain ways for their
Except for
relationship.
the fridge. I bet you the fridge in his van was probably
But
bigger than the one in his
he's
house.
still
I just want to
him.
throw that
He
out
didn't
there.
have a refrigerator in the van.
Yeah, that's why his
Yeah,
eggs
that was
were
just-
just out in between the front seats, which
Eco
freaked me out as well.
friendly.
Very strange. Actually, eggs, you don't need to refrigerate them. Fun fact.
Don't lie to me.
Eggs.
It is facts.
I love
Facts.
egg yolk.
Yeah.
You don't need to refrigerate your eggs.
No me
Yeah.
gusta huevos.
Supermarket lied to you.
Egg yolk is pretty G.
Is no that G.
I know.
A mini
That's
seizure.
that's like when I learned that white chocolate was like not really chocolate.
Yeah.
It's just like
Give white
shea
chocolate
butter,
to your dogs,
something-
folks. It's okay.
something, I don't know.
It's
There's no cocoa.
It's cacao, butter.
I don't know. Yeah. There it is.
What do
The,
you,
the cocoa bean
what
is
are your
what kills
thoughts on all
dogs.
the promo they accidentally gave in this movie to the North Face and
Oh,
Patagonia?
I don't
Lot
think
of
that,
Patagonia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
more
loved
North
it.
Face is what I realized.
It wouldn't
Me-
surprise
there
me
was
if there
so
was
many.
some
There
sort of
was
sponsorship.
sponsor.
Children in Patagonia.
Spons.
Children in
okay,
Patagonia.
I love a good Patagonia.
It's like you buy that like $100 Patagonia for your child and they
Yeah.
grow out of it next week.
like Patagonia.
Tell me
over
I'm
the
wrong.
North
And then you can
Face.
sell it on what? Facebook Marketplace for $30?
Facebook Marketplace.
Do you
Oh
guys
my
see
God.
yourself
Really, that
more
was-
as a
that was awesome.
Patagonia or a North Face fan?
Or LL Bean. Hello, shout
I
out
didn't
East
see him
Coast.
in the movie.
That's true. Also,
the
that's
dock.
definitely like a thing. I mean, am I wrong to say that's probably like a very Wyoming thing that everyone has North Face and Patagonia and like Carhartt
What about
jackets and
Arizona? King Arizona.
everyone wears flannels and has trucks that are lifted and wears
I don't
backwards hats.
know.
And
I saw that little boy and I was like, did
Yells at
Gus have a
people.
child?
I was gonna say, like, you guys
Literally,
need to
that's
stop
Gus.
roasting us because, like, I come in here probably like half the days out of the week with something North Face
Yeah,
on.
I
Yeah,
then-
me and Patagonia, or like me and LLB, and
Yeah.
I'm like here every week.
Me and
Hashtag
my
not
pack
spawns.
son.
Des
Me
just
and
did
my
the tea sip
champion.
over there because she's like, I've never purchased either.
I was like,
No.
I've never
Alex-
seen him out.
Alex is like, I drove to Burlington to get that Patagonia.
No, I'm just a bad traveler.
I
was
returned
like,
someone's
I'll deal with the
Christmas
cold.
gift to get a Patagonia.
You're not a bad traveler. You're actually beating all of us in traveling.
Yeah,
right now
and
for
you're
the
going to
past
continue
year.
to beat us.
Yeah. You're about to dip off to the UK.
You better
am.
bring back a freaking magnet, or
You-
else I'll be so mad at you.
Lily, what
What
on
was
earth
that
kind of
accent?
accent
It's
was
the
that?
best.
Was that
They
like
started to have
Pennsylvania Dutch?
conversations in that.
Is that what you're doing over there?
Can we get a replay of that?
No.
No? Okay, fair enough.
You know who that is? That's Kathy Bates from the season of Roanoke. That's what it was.
Joe's like,
We're all
huh?
coming for you. It's like
We're
Irish.
all-
Yeah, no
Coming
knowledge of that
for ya.
reference.
hate all of
So
them.
Patagonia, I'm Team Patty.
Team Pat.
Team Pat. Team LLB,
Des.
I'm
They
sorry.
seem to have more color, so I'll go with
They have
them.
better designs.
Yeah, PG.
Yeah.
PG.
LLB.
Spawns.
Oh, yeah, hit us up. Get us that
H&E.
PAT merch.
Facts. I'm gonna stick up for North Face here just because no one else is, but I like some of the Patagonia
Shout
designs
out
better.
That
to
North,
North
Fa-
Face.
That North Face and Supreme
Whoever's
collab.
Supports
fire.
us.
North
first.
Face does
Whoever
do
gives me
better.
a
Did you guys
dollar
see that
first.
Adidas is dropping a shoe collection for Game of Thrones?
Miss me
No.
with that. I don't really.
Yeah.
I got a
Really?
plug at
Mhm. It
Addy,
looks good.
So
What do they have, like dragon wings on them? Like,
No,
what's
they're
the-
like they just like colors, and they have little tags in the back that says like "Winter's here" or like a Lannister like pays her debts, or like, well, it didn't say that exactly, but it says like oh, it said "Hear us roar" because that's their like house like slogan motto,
Yeah.
whatever.
Ooh.
Hear me
If
roar or something.
anyone purchases them, that's a great sign for me to stay away.
For
I'm like,
yeah, if
I don't
see
want
a
to meet
Lannister
you. I
one,
don't want to
like-
meet your siblings because clearly there's something wrong there.
the what would the number be for the Jordans if it was like the I don't know, like the Jordan medieval collection, like
The Jordan -25.
winter is coming, like
Yeah.
It would be the Jordan 1400s.
yeah.
The Jordans 8th century BC.
The Air Denarius, or however you say her name.
Not
Love
bad.
it.
Not bad.
Queen.
Yeah, not bad.
Pitch
Because, like air, she flies sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Get it.
You know what I mean?
You're up
Right.
to date.
She
I
flies.
watched that show.
You know who might as well fly? Alex Honnold.
Yeah, facts.
That king, like, that's his next step. I
Yeah.
want to say that. Like, he
Hey,
climbs with that rope
I'm
and
an
then he
aspiring
flies.
trapeze artist with no experience, and I want to fly before him.
Alex Honnold, reach out. Talk to Alex Locke. You guys have the same first name, and he wants to do stuff on ropes. I mean, you don't really want to do stuff on ropes, but it's the same idea.
So, I mean, wrapping things up, Alex, as a aspiring trapeze artist, what is your final take on this? Does this make you want to do that more or less?
I still want to do it, just not in that environment. I want to be in a more safe and
Like a dance studio?
like outside, but not.
I think
right
he's
by
thinking
the
more like Sky
Yosemite.
Zone.
Yeah.
No,
Or
I'm
Jordan's
not.
furniture.
Don't
yeah,
drag
like a
him
Jordan's
like
furniture.
that.
Yeah.
I need like a whole production if I'm going to be trapezing. We
Yeah,
need
true.
like a light show. We need like lasers.
A water show. We'll
We'll
bring him to
get-
Jordan's.
First we'll
Lasers
do
would be dangerous.
practices.
Right,
Then
yeah.
we'll get the lights.
Lasers,
Then
too.
the
Even some
and
smoke.
fog
For
yeah.
dress rehearsal. Yeah.
Have to do it.
We
Alex,
have to
if
make you
there's-
like a super cool
Oh,
costume.
yeah.
If
Like
there's
Elvis,
too many
Elvis,
lights and
Elvis
lasers, you're gonna go
outfit.
blind.
This
You're
is
not gonna be able to
this
see the
is Super
trapeze.
Bowl we're talking about.
He's gonna know it just. He could do it with his
just
like-
eyes
No,
He's
closed.
gonna put on a Gaga-esque performance where she just jumps out of the stadium.
That's his
my
goal. That's his literal goal.
Yeah.
We've
Love
talked
it.
about this on multiple occasions.
Love this.
Wow,
He's
fantastic.
Super Bowl, let's
gonna
go.
sing the national anthem on top of the stadium.
I'm not.
Then
I'm
he's gonna
lip-
jump
I'll
in on
lip sync.
trapeze.
And then we get the fireworks and
And the
light
lasers.
show.
Oh,
So, Lily, what's your
I have one question too.
Oh,
though.
what's up?
Since last in the favorite we had some. What's your favorite snack? What snack would you eat during this movie? What snack would you eat during Free
Oh, yeah.
Solo?
nothing because I would have vomited. But
Great
I did
call.
eat some smart food while I watched it. So I guess smart food.
Fair enough.
I had an ice cream while I watched it, but
What flavor?
it was one of those like cones.
Oh,
with
a
vanilla
Cono.
chunks
Ooh,
and nuts.
drumsticks.
Everything
But
bagel.
then Alex did a little finger lift, and I was like, "Cool, I should like never eat again." Damn, Alex.
I had heavily buttered popcorn with that
Nice.
little cheddar seasoning stuff.
Boots.
Stuff is
Never
fantastic.
had.
My fingers were all disgusting, and I was like, if I had to
No.
climb a rock
And then
right
you're
now,
like,
I'm
Axel,
toast.
come here, like these.
Or extra grip, maybe.
Maybe extra grip. Yeah,
Or you
there's a
just
lot of
slippies.
salt in
You
there.
know, no.
Sticky.
You
Yeah.
get slippy because that's like the butter. and it's
glibbery.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, grease, no go.
All right, Joe.
My snack for this would be a just straight out of a skillet. I would throw like 20 kinds of vegetables in there and just eat them with a shovel. That would be my
A full size.
a full size trowel. I would just I would eat it with that, and that would be my ideal meal.
You
for
could
this.
just cook it on there too, and just scold your mouth.
Yes, and afterwards I would say I am delighted.
Yeah,
About 35
that was
times.
that was the word I was trying
So
to think of it. He
delighted.
just kept
I'm so
saying it. And I'm
delighted.
like,
So
pick
delighted.
a better adjective. Pick a better something.
It was so
That's
perfect
his.
though.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
for
It's
him.
for him.
He did it. How did he have service on the top of that to FaceTime Sonny? Like that was one of my
It's a
lingering
national
questions.
park.
I
Yeah,
have
it's a
service on
national
They got
Mount
Wi-Fi.
Washington.
Whatever that tower. Sorry, it's not okay.
I mean, if you think about it, he's above
Okay.
everything else, so he's got the best line to the satellites.
Hey,
Direct.
and,
yeah,
my-
but what if
my
the towers
snack-
aren't close?
They might have turned on a
I
hot
know.
spot. You never know.
Before you continue, my
line
snack
of sight.
would have been sun chips.
Ooh.
I like
Ooh,
a good
like-
salty.
Oh, like
What kind?
what
Chip.
type?
I'm just thinking original
Ugh,
right
the
now.
cheddar ones are so good.
No, I hate cheddar.
We should have
Sour
watched
cream
it
and
in
onions
advance.
great too.
What's the
Garden
red bag? The
salsa.
Garden Harvest?
Yeah,
Garden
garden
salsa.
harvest. It tastes
Garden
like
salsa.
salsa.
I like that one.
Soji.
I feel like
That's my selection.
sun chips are chips that you can like stack together, like they're saying you can do at Pringles.
1, 2, 3.
You can put a bunch of different ones together and they taste good.
Ooh, true. Like the
Yeah,
sandwich.
like a
yeah.
sandwich of sun
Has
chips.
anybody ever tried that?
Hungry.
I'm gonna hit up that Chex Mix North Face collab, and we'll get some like
I
real
love
trail
Chex
mix happening.
Chex Mix is
I
so
don't like
good.
any
Chex
trail
Mix
mix.
is so good.
Trail mix is fantastic.
Trail mix.
I
Especially
know
when
you
put
would love
candy
it.
in it.
You're like,
yeah.
oh, M&Ms, oh, cashews. Like,
That's it.
No,
what's
no,
up?
like
Put some sour
M&Ms,
gummy
chocolate
worms
chips,
with that
raisins,
cashew.
more chocolate chips, more M&Ms.
Oh my god, no! White chocolate chips and like little yogurt chips and trail mix. Those are
Yeah,
good.
the
But, like
yogurt
little
that-
granola bars they have on at Trader Joe's, which is really good.
I think we
I love
talk about
TJs.
TJs on every single pod.
I
and
TJs
I
is
won't
so
apologize.
good.
I feel like I've never mentioned TJs on this.
No,
podcast
we
once
definitely
in my
have.
life.
We talked
Yeah.
about TJs.
No,
I think we talked about reusable
love
bags
TJs.
last
We
one.
also had it out for the Big Y last week.
We
but
did.
We just
Big
wanted
yuck.
to clear the air that the Big Y is actually we're friends. We're friends with
I
Big
am
Y.
a TJ like fanatic.
You want to go to
TJ
TJ's
Maxx?
today?
No,
Okay.
still
Wow.
love you guys.
Shut down.
Word. Well, while you guys decide where you're going to go get snacks later, I think we're going to have to
Wrap this
call
up
this one.
and
But
see what we're doing next week.
yeah, exactly. Whose choice is it?
It's mine.
Young Des.
This was a difficult choice because
God,
it's
I'm nervous.
episode
Are you
10.
continuing this Oscar trend that we
I'm
never
not.
Good.
actually?
Good. I'm
I'm
sorry
going-
about that, by the way.
Yeah, so I had put together a big list of sci-fi films, basically, that I thought you guys should watch. But I decided to go with a film from 2009 that's on Netflix called District 9.
Hey.
Hunger
It's
Games
Neil-
tease.
Yeah, it's a Neil Blumenkamp
Mhm.
movie. He's awesome. He's directed a couple other things. South African director.
He did
Started.
Chappie, right?
He did.
Yeah.
His 3 feature lengths are District 9, Elysium, and Chappie. I liked the first one and the last one. But he started with short films. He made Alive in Joburg to pitch District 9, and now he has opened Oat Studios, which is a sci-fi shorts studio production house. So we're gonna watch District 9, and if you have time, check out one of the Oat Studios so we can talk about them. I watched a couple of his God series, and they're short films about a god, and they're really cool. So I'm gonna watch Raku next. But District 9 is about aliens that come to Earth and are living
Sick.
here in South Africa. Has anyone seen it?
I know the concept,
Yeah.
but I have not seen more than parts of it at a time. So
I
this is a
haven't
first
either.
watch
This
for me.
isn't in the Shrek category,
My
so I haven't
whole
seen it.
goal in picking a film was to try to find a film that Joe hasn't seen. And I literally at one point just had to give up and was like, I'm going to pick something. So it makes me happy that you haven't seen this whole film.
I'm
you?
inconsistent with that. Okay, good. So this is a first watch for most of
Oh
us.
my God,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sweet.
so
Maybe a
09.
first
Good
new
pick.
I'm going to
test.
rewatch, but great sci-fi film.
Awesome.
And it has one of the best pieces of special effects that I've ever seen.
Don't tell
Dur-
us.
It's just during one scene.
you
It's
ever-
super
Is it as
short.
good as Sharknado?
Is it
Ooh,
as
I don't
good
know.
as when Fiona turned into an ogre?
You weren't
Dude, not
alive
even
then.
close.
Once again, Alex, that is animation.
I
Des,
love
Don't
There's
drag
nothing
us.
special
We
or
were probably alive
affected
when it came
about
out on
Shrek is
DVD.
That was
so
actually
cheesy.
mocap, but
You can't speak if you were not alive when Shrek came out.
I was alive during Shrek 2.
We were alive
Didn't
when it came
count.
out on DVD.
not in theaters.
No, because who
You
goes to
didn't
see something in the
specify.
theaters? Nobody. We watch
We
it on
literally
DVD.
just had a whole conversation about how we go to the theater and how their floors is toothpaste consistency.
So yeah, if you want to watch the movie with us, it's on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yay.
Easy watch.
Okay.
yeah, thanks for stopping
Jeez.
by, everybody.
Thank
And
you.
Literally didn't
we
even
will
move
be
their-
back again in
Soon.
whenever we're back
2020.
Yeah.
with District 9.
Shamrock
Sweet.
2020, Final Words, Patagonia Superior, and Donkey.
I'll see you guys when I'm back.
Here.
Donkey.
Why do we always bring up Shrek? I feel like.
It's like
What are you doing in my swamp?
You guys are